Are we live in terms of?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Very good afternoon. Welcome to our thought leadership webinar on audit automation and technology togetherness. So we have our panelist, Mr. Gareth Van Gordon from the UK, who is product expert for CCH audit automation. We have Mr. Hitesh Garg, who is partner for T. Archer Dan Company, and we have Mr. Sudhir VS, who is co-partner for Hidegange and Associates. And we also have Mr. Chris Agarwal, who is Vice President Tax and Accounting for Wolters Kluwer. So Chris will start with his presentation, and then it will follow to Gareth, and then to Mr. Garg and Mr. Sudhir. And then we'll open the house at the end for Q&A round. So if you have any questions in between, you can put in the Q&A section, and we'll take it up at the end of the session. Over to you, Chris.
Thank you so much, Prasoon. I hope you can all hear me. So as Prasoon mentioned, a very warm welcome to everyone. Thank you for taking the time for joining us. I realize it's a Friday afternoon, but we have the pleasure of a very eminent panel with us. And I will be very brief as I hand over to Gareth and then to Mr. Sudhir and Mr. Hitesh. So Prasoon, if you can go to the next slide. I think just a very brief about Wolters Kluwer, as some of you may or may not know. We are a Dutch company listed in the US and Netherlands. We've really been around for nearly 200 years and really in tax and accounting since 1913 and in Asia since 1987. So it's a long legacy of being focused on tax and accounting information and software. We are now nearly $5 billion in revenue. It was a challenging year for a lot of us, but I think we've been very resilient. And we have a deep commitment towards India as well. We've been in India for over a decade and providing our tax and information solutions since then. So it's really a pleasure for us to host this webinar and take you through some of our thoughts on how audit is changing, how digital life is changing, and sort of been accelerated by the unfortunate pandemic that we went through. Hopefully, we've turned a corner there, and yet embrace technology the way that we have. If you can go to the next slide, Prasad. So what does success really mean for your firm? And in particular, given the situation that we faced, the key things are, increasing our fees on our current services. A lot of fees were under pressure, particularly with the pandemic, attracting more clients, giving them a better experience, offering more services and, getting more revenues, as well as, efficiencies and lower costs. But very importantly, and I think one more point which I want to add is the regulatory aspect, which we see in India becoming more and more important for us, especially with the NFRA coming in. We've noticed some unfortunate cases where auditors have been taken to task as well. And the reason is that we really need to have a really microscopic view of audit processes, be documented, for them to be able to be tracked, as well as increase efficiency. So I think the regulatory aspect is also very important and is important for the long-term success. So how many of us are using any audit automation solution? Mostly the answer that we receive, even when we speak to many of our large firms, is that they're using something, either it's a homegrown template or it's something that they have their own Excel sheets, macros, etc. A lot of it is still very, very paper-based. That's been our recommendation and survey. But I think more and more organizations, right, are leveraging digital technologies such as cloud, mobile, automation, analytics to create more and more value. And you'll see that we did a recent survey. You can move ahead, Prasoon, which shows that early adopters of technology in the CS space have been really getting the benefits. Nearly 70% of early adopters have said that their revenues and profits have increased the previous year. This was a survey of over 500 firms of small, medium, and large CA firms. It also is very important in attracting talent and new CAs. And these are the ones who are already very used to technology. They learn how to use technology. And this is something that they use in their daily lives. They don't want to go back to paperwork. And that's what we really want to build up. And that's really, really important. So why audit automation software, if any, right? Go ahead, Prasoon. As I mentioned, increasing standards for audit, which is the real compliance angle, especially from the NFRA side. to control fraud, risk, making sure the staff is following all correct procedures, making sure consistency and replicability is there in your processes. So, document trail and potential liability management, again, very, very important. And this is something which is coming down globally from international accounting standards. And this is very, very important that you have peer reviews, you have sometimes the regulator wanting to look at your books. If you have something which can capture all the documentation trail, all the approvals, red flags, etc., and be able to carry that forward, it creates very, very robust documentation. And of course, clients are also becoming more and more digital. Clients also want to be able to get data very quickly, as well as your competition. Some of your competition may already be using this software. We do see some homegrown softwares, even people using automation tools like MyDocs or others, which are helping people at least keep documentation in place, if not the process. So there is already your competition, which are other CA firms who are using some or the other tool in this space. But is your firm prepared at this point in time? And I think our eminent panelists will talk about that as well. Right now, there are multiple technologies, softwares, person if you can click through, that we are using, right? Whether it's a database, whether it's your receivables, whether it's the accounting balance sheets, checklists, etc. And all of these things are kind of disconnected, right? Whether it's your templates, your working papers, so on and so forth. What we propose is a holistic solution which can automate the entire process, keep everything right from your appointment as an auditor right to the time where you generate your final audit report. If all of that can be managed in one solution, one software, it enables you to be more productive, keeps everything in one place, and increases your quality and efficiency multifold. You can use ready-made templates, there's secure access, automatic indexing, solution compliance, and these are the things which will help you identify, manage, and minimize this. So I think it's really important that solutions like this become more and more important. So what technology is important for you and what will work for you? I think that's very important. So I think there are several modules which you can look at, entire audit compliance solution, automation solutions, just sometimes document management, depending on the size of your firm, as well as the number of people who are using it, as well as the number of audits that you do. But typically we see statutory audits in particular are really the bread and butter for a lot of firms. And in India, there's always pressure on fees on statutory audits. So if we can able to do this faster, better, cheaper, I think it is a benefit to all of us. If you can go to the next slide. So I think, how do you make technology then work? Right? There are 4 steps that we found, basically giving the solution now to nearly 50 plus customers in India in audit, and several hundred in the UK, where this solution has come from. Is first, set your own strategy and achieve a buy-in internally. I think it's very important, right from the seniors to the juniors, to be able to be ready for software. Understand what is your current system and technology requirements, and what are some of the investments that may be needed. It's not only sometimes the software, but sometimes your network, etc., that you may need to beef up as well. Create a robust implementation plan, and for that you need really a solution provider who can help you through that. Be able to create the right training roadmap, as well as checkpoints. I think that's really, really important. You do need that hand holding. And finally, post implementation, right? Ensure that you create a SPOC, ensure that you create feedback, and make sure that your training or retrainings can be iterative. It is very powerful, and you have, again, the solution provider who can give you some of these inputs. So I think this is really a holistic way in terms of driving technology. And I think as Wolters Kluwer, not to be full all into a marketing spiel, we are there for you, and we are there with our own team to help you through this. And we're happy to discuss this. And that's why I'm going to stop speaking now and have our experts take over. Over to you, Gareth. And thank you again for joining.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Okay, so my name is Gareth Van Gordon. You see it on the screen there. I'm the product owner for our audit automation solution. It is based as a UK product, but it is used globally, sort of around the world in many different countries. So what I'm going to talk about today is a sort of transformational journey from traditional audit process to automating that audit process. Okay, so in my mind, the first thing we always need to think about is the significance of audit quality. And making sure that at the end of the day, whatever you do as an audit, you have to do a good quality audit, or the penalties are quite severe now. and you're all probably copied into various emails from people which detail the fines and penalties in place for people, and they're not to be sniffed at. So I think one of the things about quality is having the more manual processes in there sort of gives that inherent risk that something could go wrong, and technology will help you to minimize that risk by automating processes. So I would recommend that sort of management of firms you embrace the technology and have a willingness to invest funds in it to help you achieve sort of a better quality audit. But there's more than that to quality. Now I'll just talk about some of my thoughts now. But so technology is advancing at such a rapid pace, not just in auditing, but in around the world. Take a look at a mobile phone you had 20 years ago compared to what you have now. They're not. You can't compare the two. And obviously, although not a greater pace, a lot of that does filter through to other areas. And obviously, we're here today to talk about accounting and audit. So think about one of the things that you've got in an accountancy environment is sort of automated accounting systems. Now we have sort of records transaction automatically getting entered in ledgers without anyone need to look at them, documents getting filed automatically, things like that. And how does that affect our audit? Well, as auditors, we need to. There's pressure on us to keep up to date with those technology changes and the changes in the client system. And when it comes to the audit, it's not uncommon for both the clients and the auditors to accept that the audit process is painful, and the general mindset is that the audit is something that has to happen because there's a legal requirement to do, rather than there's any benefit to the client for having the audit. It's much more of a something that has to happen. So what's improved with the transition to technology? So as a byproduct of that, it has strengthened the client and auditor relationships. Independent auditors are tasked with sort of verifying, validating, and forming their own opinions, and that's regardless of how sort of trustworthy and cooperative a client may be. But despite a natural sort of adverse component, the audit relationship doesn't have to be a strain. It benefit both sides if it's more collaborative. And this can start with a more sort of foundation and mutual respect by having transparency, and a single finance solution can help with this. So with a single finance sort of automated solution, both the accountant and audit can access the transparency and trust can extend across all the levels. So with critical processes performed and documents stored in a single repository, auditors are more confident that they're receiving the right data, and they can also access them themselves. They don't have to constantly chase clients for records. So it's a win-win, because the auditor can spend less time chasing the records and more time partnering with the organisation to look at sort of the more complex areas. Okay. So streamlining the audit process is something that we want to achieve. So despite manual accounting and audit processes, many client auditor relationships are solid, but still both parties would agree that there's more room for improvement. So between ongoing quarterly reviews, year-end audits, and other audit processes, it's no wonder that the company would feel that the auditor is always around. And while there's plenty of reasons to have another set of eyes on things, everyone will probably agree audits usually take more effort than they prefer. So the financial year-end technology can help in several ways. So having sort of a prepared by client list. So with everything stored and accessible in a cloud solution, both the clients and auditors have a unified platform for requesting provided PBC or prepared by client list, as well as monitoring the status of these. So rather than recurring meetings and emails to hash a list, both parties can easily see where things are in terms of getting the information to the audit. So staff should no longer be spending days sort of manually pulling and copying spreadsheets and getting paper files. Instead, they should be given access to sort of digital records. Okay, with a single version of the truth, clients eliminate version control issues entirely, Additionally, preparers and reviewers can leave notes that are useful to auditors. So things like key considerations or assumptions that might support or clarify their own conclusions. Okay, so technology limits the risk of errors and provides best practices and segregation of duties. This strengthens process governance, means auditors can rely on configurable business rules rather than extensive sampling and detailed testing of transactions. Okay, so all of this technology, although it's not going to result in a specific fee reduction for the client, but it should reduce overall costs in technologies. So just simple things like speeding up the audit, generating sample sizes, reducing sort of travel expenses. You no longer need to go to every satellite location of the auditor. So when core year-end activities are streamlined, your accounting and finance team is better positioned to focus on what matters, delivering accurate and transparent financial information. At the same time, a more efficient audit means newfound time for strategic collaboration, which benefits the board, management, and the audit. Could we just go back to the previous slide? I think you got a little bit ahead of me there. So this is, so there should be some other words around the other journeys, but anyway, not to worry, we can send the slide deck out. So this is kind of like the journey of where we are. So if I take sort of my career, I'm sort of 20 years in this industry now. My first job working, it was definitely sort of journey one on there, which was a very manual process. I remember my first audit, you would go to a drawer, you would get a copy of the audit pack, photocopy it, put it in a file, and you'd spend all day sort of writing the name of the client and the year end on that sort of pack of paper. And now that's something that can be done in 10 seconds with a click of a button. And that's as we've progressed through the stock, through those stages. So having a sort of very paper-based, moving to using digital technology, but probably not using it very well. So I think that first step was generally getting the paper file and put it in a digital format, and not really making use of that as we can today. And then moving on to stage 3 is when we can see sort of automation. So other softwares are available, but just talking about my software, when we generate a client now, sort of all the audit programs that we need and we would expect on the client are there. So we're not going to produce audit programs that aren't relevant to the client. Okay, and then the next step, moving to the cloud. So obviously, that's sort of where everyone is trying to get to at the moment. So cloud technology, and then also it's not on the list, but sort of data analytics to bring in to kind of make areas of the audit more automated. Okay, so if we can move on. So can we move to the next slide, or is it okay? Thank you. So I just want to give you a very brief sort of history of our product. I'm not here as a salesperson. That's not my job. But our system was first created in 1991, so it's 30 years ago now, which is quite a lot of time for a piece of software. But obviously, it's not the original program that was written 30 years ago. It's been continuously improved. And one of the main sort of major rewrites was done in 2004, 2005, and that was the introduction with sort of clarity ISAs and international standards of auditing. We've then recently done another rewrite to the software, not from a functionality point of view, but more from a technology point of view, to bring it into the sort of latest SQL Server database technology. So the way our software is kind of unique to a unique selling point for our software is we have an identified risk database, and that will link to programs to ensure control and compliance over the whole audit process. And then it's a master pack driven approach. So the master packs for the software that you can use, they will cater for the different entity types and the different technology that you can. You also have the option to build your own formats in-house or customize those. So if we can go to the next slide, I think this is the last one, and then I'll hand over. So this, in the UK, we have 49 out of the top 100 firms that use our software. So I don't know if these names mean anything to you over in India, but these are sort of household names in the UK. Okay, so I think that's it for me. I'll hand over to Mr. Gerg. So thank you very much, everyone, for your time.
Thank you, Gareth. It's over to you, Mr. Gareth.
Thanks, Gareth. Thank Chris for the introducing that of this seminar. And good afternoon, all of you. And thanks, Walter Kluwer, for inviting me as a panelist. So, as you know, that we are discussing right now on the audit automation. So now the question is why audit automation is required. So as a firm, so once we started thinking about what is about the audit automation tool. So our first thought was why we need audit automation tool. So how automation would impact our audit process and what benefit we will get out of it. And the question is that is it really required? So we know that the audit process is closely related to audit quality, audit efficiency, competence, and skill of the auditors. But friends, it doesn't matter how efficiently you have done the audit. It doesn't matter how good your audit skill. Till the time you can demonstrate what audit process you have performed by way of your audit documentation. Till the time you can demonstrate that all audit processes as required by auditing standard have actually been performed. So your audit documentation, so we cannot say that you have performed all the audit processes till the time you can demonstrate the same with your audit documentation. So like the case says that after the introduction of the NAFA and the various other regulator report of the RBI and something like that. So if you've seen the current report, recent report of them and their comment on the audit, we further realize the need of audit documentation. And it not the audit working paper in general, but also the audit process which have been questioned by the regulator, saying that if you have not performed, you have not documented, if you cannot we can say that demonstrate what audit processes you have performed, it can be said that you have not done the audit as per the requirement. So expectation from audit has increased multifold, and hence the risk of failure as well. So to detect material discrepancy is much higher. So no matter how efficiently you have done the audit, but if you cannot demonstrate that all audit processes have been followed, it will be presumed that audit has not been done. So this was the prime thought. So we can say that once we started visualizing that whether we need audit automation, this was the first thought that come to us, so that we need audit automation. And with that idea, we agreed that we should adopt audit automation tool. So however, once we started with this idea and explore the possibility with audit automation, we realized that there are much more which can be achieved through this audit automation tool. So for time benefit, we can say that in my view, which can be expected from audit automations are, the thing is of course, increased efficiency, saving time and money. So one of the immediate benefit of the audit automation is the efficiency which it brings with it. So manual, time-consuming activity can be automated and carried out by digital platform. So employee can feed to focus on high-value activities rather than just on the manual activity, just the clerical work that we are doing. So right now, without the digitization, audit firm need to adopt platform to streamline processes through automation to ensure processes are followed consistently with a full audit trail to match. They would be able to participate in audit much more quickly and convincingly, producing documentation and evidence in just a by way of click, saving time, money, which all involved during the audit process. Second thing is the integration for consistency and accurate information. So one of the most time during the audit process, because of the labor intensive element during the audit process is collecting all the necessary information. Because when we start the audit, there are a lot of times being spent in collecting the data. Through the audit automation tool, so we can streamline that process. So we can interact with our audit client. So they can send us the data directly to our audit tool. so which will save a lot of time. So using an automated platform allows organization to integrate data from various sources and provide complete visibility to ensure that no information falls through the crack. The process previously relied on is a combination of email and paper form, so through which we generally get the information from our client, so which can be automated by gathering the information for audit, and the audit themselves become more efficient. Prior to automation, during the administration phase, user had to make a query manually across more than 10 or 15 systems to gather the information, so which we need for the purpose of audit. So auditor would then have to use the text editor to create document each time to show what are their findings. So this manual effort took a lot of time and was also prone to the error. So all these activities can be streamlined. So and the can be streamlined with very efficiently. So by way of this audit tool. So third thing is the satisfy compliance and regulatory need. So as I mentioned earlier, so ability of the audit documentation, in my view, is the prime benefit that we will get out of the audit automation tool. So when a process is mapped out of a workflow and automated through a centralized platform, all the information is captured. So you can rest assured that all the action in the processes are fully audited and captured. So sometimes we feel that whether we have done all the audit processes that are required during the process of audit, because if it is a manual process, so it is very difficult to figure out. So whether all the processes, because a partner as an engagement partner, as a senior audit manager, they cannot ensure that whether by way of manual audit work paper, they cannot ensure whether all the processes that are required have actually been followed. But if it is automated, when all the activities are mapped into this audit automation tool, audit tool, so the person can verify. So whether all the required activities have actually been performed or not. If it had not been performed, he can question. So he can ask audit team, so this activity has not been done, please complete the same. So by mapping out and automation all audit risks, so there is a complete visibility over the end-to-end process. So this is also one of the benefits so that we can get to the audit tool. So this also allowed the team to have ability to adopt processes, to respond to changing regulations. Because nowadays we have seen there are a lot of change that is being taking place during this as far as the regulatory environment is concerned. So it becomes very difficult to ensure whether all the regulatory requirement for the purpose of audit has been complied with. But by a well thought of planning and the planned audit process which have been mapped into the system, so we can ensure that all audit required processes have been completed. The biggest benefit of digitizing a process is improved audit time. So like I said earlier, the audit documentation, so that will be generated to this audit automation tool. So that will generate all the audit detail that is required to demonstrate that what activities has actually been performed, when it has been performed, who has performed the same, and whether those have been reviewed timely or not, and whether the reviewer, maker, checker, all these things will be captured automatically. So no need to mention that this person has performed this job, this person has reviewed that job, how many times have been spent on that particular activity, all can be captured in this tool itself. So process automation could further help your audit as well as other essential risk and compliance activities. Fourth is the visibility to enable business insight. Before any process can be automated, it must be mapped out. So this aids with visibility and allow businesses to see exactly how processes will be carried out. So this can enable them to uncover business insight so that they would otherwise not have been aware of. Next slide, please. So can you move to the next slide? Yeah. So before I start on this topic, that how the pandemic has accelerated this digitization and the audit of automation, so I just want to tell about a book which I someone has zapped me, and I have gone through the same, so which is very interesting and very eye-opening. So this is regarding the name is the Future of Profession. So it was published somewhere around, I think, 2015-16, and this book is talking about the how various famous, we can say that the most lucrative profession in today's world would undergo a change in future. So the writer has done a tremendous job, tremendous kind of, we can say, search, and they have done a very good job in visualizing that how our profession would be changed in near future by way of evolving technology. And my friend, so you believe that the one of the that profession is our accounting in profession, auditing profession is one of that profession which, as per writer, so will go under a tremendous change in the coming future days. So like the topic is the how pandemic has and is accelerated the future of audit for auditor. The COVID-19 pandemic has forced businesses to operate remotely and accept digital technology, whether they were ready for it or not. So while the audit process was already evolving, with the emergence of new technology and growing investor expectation, COVID-19 has significantly accelerated towards a virtual audit. And then what we mean by the virtual audit or the audit automation. So this is not simply a matter of conducting an audit through a video chat or taking traditional processes and moving it online. So you can share computer screen, but still you need to have an audit documentation. So instead, it is about digital transformation, which revamp the audit processes into something entirely new, a reimagined audit experience. So digital transformation might be necessary during this unusual time. So when physical distancing during this pandemic, so and the remote working has become a kind of a norm. But in future, so audit isn't just about remote auditing. So it's about transforming underlying process. So using technology to achieve three goals. Three goals are the high quality audit, a more efficient audit, and better business insight for our client. So COVID-19 has suddenly forced changes in a matter of days. So prior to pandemic, many large firms were well underway in the process of digitizing their document. Smaller firms were just getting started or only part way through. So, but pandemic has forced everyone to move to a new world, new way of conducting audit. And cloud-based data extraction system were immediately put to test. So pandemic forced change out of necessity, but there was no time for debate at all. So transition barriers regarding access to data, client resistance, and client readiness so were quickly overcome, and the audit technology was put to test, and it worked very well. So it's shown us the way of the future. So like I said that like in the books, the writer has mentioned that how the profession would undergo change by way of technology. So I think that this pandemic has pushed that a little bit earlier than the writer has the thought of. So it's shown us the way of the future. On-site visit will be resumed in future, but many of these changes will be permanent. So the experience has given the market and regulator confidence that audit quality has accelerated, though it has been done remotely. So this has shown us the way of the future. It is possible that it is possible, it's better. But it has also highlighted that what else is required. So that the past few months are just start of this journey, and we have to go a long way. So overcoming resistance and lack of readiness that has to be we can to deal with. So during this pandemic, client was ready in their digital transformation, greatly benefited from having good, clean, and formatted data, resulting in little or not disruption in their audit. For example, using cloud-based remote data extraction capability and data extraction platform. So clients have been able to securely data share in digital format. So the clients which were ready, so which already have that kind of platform, that kind of infrastructure, they have easily adopted the change. So they have made available the files, data, documents available to the auditors remotely and the securely. So business that have not been already digitized their source documentation had to get it done and done it quickly to accommodate remote working and eventually remote auditing. So while technology will play a great role in audit, it isn't means to replace auditor. So in fact, the ability of technology to quickly and efficiently process large quantity of data. So will enable auditor to utilize their new data analytical tool to drive critical insight and strategic business recommendation. So when we talk about the future of the audit or the future of the any profession, it doesn't mean that the profession itself will be changed tremendously. So it doesn't mean that profession will be end, but the only thing that the way of doing that profession would change. So technology is driving change across the entire, we can say the entire financial ecosystem. So with increased use of technology, the entire financial reporting ecosystem needs to be matured to catch up with what we are able to do and what investor and regulator are expecting from us as an auditor. To do this effectively, auditor need to upskill, companies need to enhance live connection to data, and regulator need to strengthen and evolve standard to match new technological capabilities such as AI. So, but looking ahead, so the core of any digital solution, however, must include fundamental principles related to security and privacy to enable the use of this capability. And this need to be continued to focus on the key item. So after the acceptance of digitization and automation of high quality and efficient audit, there is no going back. The future of audit is within reach and closer than ever. So concluding remarks from my side are, in my view, the execution stage of an audit process will be the impacted most by this automation. The shift can already be seen by way of audit are being performed nowadays. But in future, the emphasis would be even more on testing internal control than substantive procedure. It has to be, it has already been discovered that audit quality and audit efficiency are expected to increase, but automation is believed to decrease the amount of human error and speed up the audit process, as well as help auditor to draw better conclusions. So competence and skill of auditor will always be important in future as well as it is nowadays. But the findings suggest that the higher level of IT knowledge and skill are desired in future as more and more technology will be integrated in auditing. So with that note, I am handing over this today's session to Mr. Sudhir, who will further talk about the future technology of the audit. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks all of you. So over to you, Sudhiji. You can start your session.
Sorry, I was speaking on. So thank you, Mr. Ritesh. I will take it from where you left. The future of audit. The future of audit is what the emerging business solutions is all about. So we are always looking at how the audit or any other process which is happening in the new age, it has been changing. So what are these new technology, new jargons is something which we will try and understand on a very broad level in next 10 to 15 minutes. Mr. Prasun, can I have the next slide, please? So this is one of the things which Aristotle has mentioned, where thousands of years ago, humanity needed technology in order to live comfortably. So technology is something which was there as a concept, not today. It is coming from the ages. And it has been looked at that the growth is having a direct correlation with the digital technology which has been adopted. So this was also there in the CRISP presentation where they have conducted a survey and they were able to establish that the firms who have gone for a digitalization or the virtual things are able to earn more. So it is not only the earning more, it is basically the survival also. So today the technology has not been adopted. Forget about the audit firm. Any other business, anything which has been there, then you will be outdated. You will be out of the business. So it is very important for us that we need to understand that the technology is not only for growth acceleration, but also for the survival itself. It may be difficult for us to do the audit without technology in future days to come because of various things which I'm going to explain of the blockchain and things like that. Without you knowing technology and without using any technological tools, conducting audit may be not possible at all in the future to come. Innovation breeds business or practice, whatever it is. So innovation is always required, and the technology innovation is something which is broadly been looked at. So business increase leveraging the benefits of digital tools, and it also improves the business prospect. So this is something which we need to understand. Yeah, Prasun. So there are certain challenges which has been there as far as Prasun of time. Yeah, there are some back Prasun. Yeah, the major challenges what it has been caused today is that the way we are communicating, the business is communicating what it was earlier and what it is today is totally changed. Like Gareth was recalling his old days as to how he was going and picking up the physical document. Today there is no question of the younger generation, the millennial. There is no question of physical document at all. So in my office, we were used to do a working paper, which was handwritten working papers. We were making the observation in a A4 sheet, filing it into a file. So today in my office, there is not even a single such paper being prepared. So because it is not that it has been made as a design, but it has been made as a choice of the people that they just open a spreadsheet or any of the other documents, OneNote and things like that, and they make a live observation. So I was wondering how the technologies are being used during the new age guys, the millennials. So there was a presentation which was going on. So the notes was taken on OneNote. The photo was clicked of the board, and that also was incorporated into OneNote, and that was mailed by the end of the meeting within 5 minutes with all the photos, with all the notes, very crystal clear explanation, along with the action points to be done, which has been clearly tagged, marked to the people, linked to one to other. All these things was done within no time on a live basis. So this is how the technology has been used. The business communication is totally becoming different. We need to be more organized in terms of pulling the data which has been required. The information today is almost it is required yesterday. Nothing is required today or tomorrow. Everything comes as it was yesterday's. So we need to be very quick in organizing and pulling the data. Making business operation more productive and efficient is another challenge which is there for us, because everybody today are looking for value for money. So if you are not giving any value and efficiently adding to the business operation, you don't get paid sufficiently for it. So the cost management and efficiency is something which one has to be looked at. As Mr. Ritesh was telling that due to the pandemic, the concept of working under collaboration is increasing day by day. The remote working and collaborations is increasing, and that would be the way forward for us. Not only because of the pandemic, it has also taught us the way to do it without we being physically traveling to a particular place. So this is something which can be adopted in most of the processes, and the remote working and the collaborative working will be the way forward, and that is a challenge which we need to be looking at. Yeah, Mr. President. So one of the things which I would want to take you through was the robotic process automation. Person, you can go to the total thing of this slide. So this is robotic process automation. When the reference is made to a robot, it is not an hardware robot, but it is a software robot. So this is nothing but a small program which has been developed, which process certain tasks which has been given in an automated way without you being involved in that. So that is something called as a robotic process automation. This is actually replacing a lot of the tedious job and a non-productive job and giving more efficiency. So this is something which I cannot see a CA office in next 5 to 10 years, between the range of 5 to 10 years, not having an RPA. I cannot see such CA office at all in future. So this is going to be very, very critical, because this is going to save a huge amount of time. And we all have a huge challenge in terms of getting the resource, getting the article training, the quality of the resource what we are getting. So this is going to be a way forward for sure. Prasoon, the next slide. So benefit of this RPA would be that productivity. This processes the process cycle time is going to be decreased. Reliability, there cannot be much errors. Human can do errors, but not the robot or the software programming. It will not do an error. So there will be a consistency and routine. Something has to be done at end of the day, 12 o'clock at the night, every day it has to be done. You need not be around. You can always program a robot, the RPA programming, and that will be done for you every day, every time consistently, and it is not one such affair. So that is the advantage here. Cost control, cost gets substantially reduced because the manpower cost today is huge, and RPA as a process is not a costly programming software. There are many open source studios where you can actually develop the process, the bots, and you can deploy that into the system. So thereby the cost of this is not much, but the replacement cost of the manpower or any other system which we are having is going to be having the huge benefit for us. The bot also can be programmed to give the audit trials. So as an auditors, for us, the audit trial becomes very, very important. Might it be for the peer review or any other future inquiry or disciplinary, the audit trial is key for us. And audit trial also ensures the quality, whether the things have been happened or not. So the bot can also be programmed to give the audit trial. The technical barrier is very low. One of the use case is one of my article trainee who is in the second year of article, who doesn't know ABCD of any of the software programming, was able to develop a bot which almost files the GSTR returns by itself without much. It automatically downloads the data from the email ID. It will make the certain validations which is pre-programmed, and it will log into the login, what you call the client login in the GST portal, and it is placing the returns in that particular portal. So this was developed by a second year article. So that is the advantage of RPA, that you need not require much of a programming background for it, for actually developing. And accuracy is going to be good, and the actual manpower can shift when doing beyond the regular clerical job. They can shift for doing more of a job where actually your brain is required and not a bot. So this would be the great advantages of RPA. Implementation process is simple, where you identify a process and you assess the process, what exactly has to be done, do a pilot run, design the overall workflow, deploy the bot, monitor and support. So that is going to be a simple process of methodology of working. So there are various use cases, right from procurement to pay, order to cash, in terms of data validation in case of currency, planning to reporting in the audit. Everything can be automated through RPA. So this is one of the use case which has been shared, where the invoice has been picked up from the mails directly. This is a P2P transaction processing from the vendor, whatever the invoice there. So that gets picked up, it gets classified, it gets tabulated, and that tabulated data is been validated, and that validated item will be uploaded in the ERP, and further validation and the dashboard of that would be done. Everything would be done without any involvement of a manpower at all. So this is something which is one of the use case where many of the organizations are using it. Yeah, Prasun. So these are many other use cases where the fluctuation analysis, the comparatives, or it could be the risk assessment from the location, product, and the supplier customer point of view, compliance risk, risk assessment dashboards. So various other things which is there as the risk assessment, design effectiveness training, audit planning, field work, reporting, ongoing monitoring. So these are the various places where the RPA has been used and people are actually taking the advantage of many of these used cases in the audit. Yeah, Mr. Krishna. So the next emerging technology is the artificial intelligence. So the artificial intelligence, as you are aware, it's an intelligence which has been artificially created by a program to do a set of function by itself. So how a human mind thinks is being replicated to a machine sort of a thinking, but it is not that artificial intelligence in terms of your senses or in terms of feel and touch. It is more of how you are analyze the data, what is the logics which get into it. So those data is being analyzed, and the artificial intelligence is going to make a sea change in the audit approach which is going to be there, because that actually will give us a flagging of a transaction which is not normal. Say, for example, the use cases of artificial intelligence is that in the banking sector, there is one of the pattern of a person how he is withdrawing the money would be captured. The data would be captured, and there is some amount of learning which happens with the system. So I am a salaried employee, and I always draw my entire earnings or 50% of my salary between 5th and 10th of every month. So this is my pattern for 5 years now. And all of a sudden, in between, I am drawing, that is from 10th to 30th, I am drawing this particular amount. So which was not the pattern at all. Then the system automatically flags this to the users, to the auditor or vigilance, whoever it is, and says that, see, this is something which is out of the pattern. So that sort of an intelligence is being built. I have given one such logic. There could be 1,000 or 1 lakh such logics which can be developed here, and various audit samples or the flagging can be looked at from the artificial intelligence. Prasoon, next slide. So that gives more of a computational advantages. All these things which I have already talked about. Yeah, Prasoon, next slide. So there are 3 types of AI which is broadly categorized. One is an artificial narrow intelligence, where again it has been broadly divided into 3 things: assisted AI, augmented AI, and fully autonomous AI. So assisted AI is that the AI is being done not by itself. The entire thing is not happening by itself. It has been largely assisted by a manpower wherever it has been required. Next, we have the augmented AI. Augmented AI is more of monitored AI, where it has been monitored by a human being, but it has not been intervened. Like assisted, it has been intervened, but in augmented, it is only monitored. Fully autonomous is like you are driving less cars or the trucks in the coal mines, which has been used in the Australia, where you are not at all involved. It is fully based on the AI. So that is one of the type which has been there. Artificial general intelligence is more like what you see in the many of the movies, science fiction movies, where the robot performs similar task as good as a human being. So those sort of things is what the artificial general intelligence. Artificial super intelligence is much ahead, way forward, where that is going to be much intelligence than the intelligent most person on the earth. So that is how the things the technology is growing to develop more intelligent machines than man. So next is the machine learning. AI, ML goes hand in hand. ML is a part of an AI. Machine learning is a part of an AI. So machine learning is where it gets where based on the analysis of the data and based on an action, the machine learns by itself the action what it has to be done. So that is what is the machine learning. Again, it is a classic machine learning, and reinforcement learning is there. Not getting into too much of it, but this is broadly where you will be able to do a certain action. So whenever there was a flagging of an event which was happening because of unusual transaction which has been popped by AI, which is the data has been artificially, the data has been looked at and it has been popped up. What does machine learning does is that what was the action against this? So the action was that we sent an email to that particular person or a call to that particular person. So that action point, in what scenario has been done, the machine learning captures it and it performs the same thing next time also. That sort of a exception which has been reported. So that is how ML and AI works hand in hand. Next slide, Tusun. So next slide, Tusun. All these things are the use cases which I'll not be getting into. This is how the ML can give a lot of pictorial representation. So next one is the blockchain technology. Blockchain technology, most of you would have heard of this cryptocurrency, bitcoins and things like that. So don't get confused the blockchain technology with these sort of money making coins or the tokens and things like that. You have to understand this from a technology. Blockchain is a technology, and a cryptocurrency or the Bitcoin is one of those things which has been developed on a technology called blockchain. So all the things which has been which the RBI is against, the blockchain is the cryptocurrency is banned, China is banning it, it is used, it is not used, all those things is nothing to do with the blockchain technology. So the blockchain technology basically validates the data without having a dependency on anybody. So there is an amount transferred by one person to another person. The bank facilitates the transfer and banks record this for having the trial. So there is an intermediary bank where the dependent is happening between two persons. So blockchain ensures that there is no organization or a person in between, so that what you call the there is no there is no middleman or a person which has been involved, but the transaction what has been happened has been stored in various nodes and it has been encrypted so that it cannot be tampered or it cannot be altered. So that is broadly the technology of blockchain. Prasoon, next slide. So there is a very beautiful article which has been given by AI CPA. You can Google this, or if this has been circulated my slide, you can take the link from this. That gives a very good document in terms of how audit and blockchains goes together and what is the role of an auditor in a blockchain technology. So the blockchain is going to change the way of the audit being done. One of the there is some misconception saying that once a blockchain is coming, auditors are not involved. Auditors would be still involved to do a judgment which is required on the financial statement. But the authenticity of a transaction today, when we are doing an audit, we are also concerned to look at when a sale has been booked or a purchase has been booked or expenses has been booked, whether it is valid, whether it was actually done, whether it is having a trail, whether it is having a document. All those things is also a part of an audit which we are checking in terms of whether there was a transaction at all which has been happened. Now assume if the transaction is happening on a blockchain technology, the accounts has been maintained on a blockchain technology. We need not get into that because that has been already authenticated with the technology which has been there. So our role is going to substantially reduce. The watching, the verification of the document will disappear once the blockchain technology is being used by our clients in a big time. So there is huge opportunity here also in terms of putting this blockchain technology in place, and also where the auditor after the blockchain technology is there. The auditor is one of the node which keeps on getting all the transaction as a copy to it, and you can authenticate on a real-time basis. The smart contract that also gets to your node, and you will be able to look at the transaction which is happening on a real-time basis. So those are the use cases as far as the blockchain technology. I'll take another 2 minutes and I'll wrap it up soon. Next is the IoT, which is called as an Internet of Things. So Internet of Things is basically a hardware which accumulates a lot of data and transmits over internet. So IoT also plays a very large uh, uh, role for in the future audit, especially when the audits are more with the process audits, control audits, the risk mechanism things are there. So the Internet of Things is going to be a next big things, and all of us have to look at how to put the devices in place and the data coming out of it, how to crunch it and make a meaning out of the data and look at the audit trail because based on that. So that is what is going to be there as far as the Internet of Things is concerned. Press next slide. So various things as far as the smart contracts and the Internet of Things is could be your stock level monitoring, real-time tracking or of the movement of goods, the stock arrival, warehousing, mobiles, or the ambulance. These are the things which is going to be there. Yeah. So I'll be ending the slide with this. By 2026, almost 26% of the world GDP could be based on internet-based and digitally connected industry. So this is what is going to be the future in next 4 or 5 years. 26% of the GDP is through internet and digital. Next slide, please. So with this, I thank you all for having patiently listening to me. And I thank Wolters, Kluwer, and the entire team for having me here to share my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sudhir, for such a powerful insight and showing us the mirror towards future of audit. I would also like to thank you, Mr. Gareth, for showing us the transition journey on the audit automation from where it started and where we stand today and where the future holds. Thank you, Mr. Garg, for sharing such powerful insights on the importance of documenting the audit processes and how important it is from the statutory governing perspective. Also like to thank Chris for the introduction. We'd like to open the house for question and answer now. We'll quickly take a few questions, and then if there is a direct question to the panelist, we would connect to the panelist as well. So just a moment. Let us see if we have any. Just a moment, let's see.
There is one question, Prasoon, where it says, does the software cater only statutory audit, or we can perform other audits too?
Okay, so I like to take this question. Though we have a ready-to-go approach for this from the statutory audit perspective, as Gareth mentioned, that we have a methodology which we call it master pack, which we can define into the system. Master pack is where we define all the audit templates, audit procedures, checklists, documents, whatever would require for that particular standard of auditing. The software is flexible. We can customize as per our requirement from the content side and the workflow as well. So yes, of course, it is ready to use for the statutory audit, but definitely if one see that there is capability to customize with what they have and can use it for other audits as well. So it's a good to go for the other audit from other audit perspectives as well. Yeah, any other questions? Let us just wait for a couple of minutes more, and then if we don't have any questions. It was from Mr. Kriti. I think we don't have any questions for now, but if from the audience, if any of you has any question, you can always connect with us. You can write to us, and we would get back with the answer to your queries. If it is required, we'll also connect to the panelist if it is directly for them. Thank you so much, everyone, once again, and we hope it was time worth spent, and we would look forward to engage in our coming webinars. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all of you.
Thank you so much. Okay, bye-bye.